Hey guys, so I've been playing quite a bit of solo runs with different configurations, sometimes without bots, recently most of the time with dead bots, and I've gotten some questions as to whether or not this actually affects the number of zombie spawns in the map. So here I basically, based on my previous runs, I've basically noted down the kills that I get in the endgame stats, and I've kind of placed them in this table here, so you can kind of compare them more easily. So for example, for New York 1, when you play solo without bots, you get roughly 1,000 kills. And surprisingly, when you play with dead bots, you also get just over 1,000 kills. And then in terms of this ratio in the last column here, we basically divide the number of kills from dead bots and divide it by the number of kills you get without bots. So what I've noticed is in maps where there's a time hot, basically where the swarm is kind of attacking a gate, etc., they usually scale according to the number of players. So for example, in Phoenix maps where there are time hots, either during the middle or the end of the defenses, you can see that the total number of zombies scaled by about 1.5 times for all three of them. And likewise for quite a handful of maps where there are time hots, you also get this kind of scaling as well. So for New York 1, for example, because the hots are not exactly timed, you can kind of clear them, take as long as you need to clear them out. And so this might be one of the reasons why it doesn't scale properly. And as for New York 2, we get a little bit more when you have 4 players, but overall I think it's still not a very significant increase. But also bear in mind that this is based on a single successful run, so the numbers might differ a little depending on how you play, because on certain maps you can kind of stay, if you prolong your duration staying in a single section, you can of course rack up a bit more kills, so that may not be most representative. So yeah, and for example in New York 3, it is objective based map, so you don't really need to kill any zombies there as well, so the number of players there doesn't really and the kill count doesn't really matter in that scenario. So those that I highlight in green are generally maps that doesn't really scale much, even if you have 4 players. And that's mainly because of how the objectives in the maps are like. So yeah. And then those in yellow, even though you don't get a very big scaling effect, there are also certain hots in this 4 maps that are scaled according to the number of players you have. So for example, in New York 4, in the final area, the hot is much larger when you have 4 players. But there's kind of a trick to New York 4. If you the final area is time based, so you actually just have to hold out for say about 5 minutes, and then the objective will end. So you can clear the first wave or the first hot, and if your second objective is to restart the grid, you can actually wait out for 5 minutes, don't restart the grid, and then restart it only after the time has passed, and then you won't get any more waves coming from the cliff or the parking garage. So that's how you can actually manipulate the game, or make use of the game mechanic, and still essentially just to clear the objective without having to defend against multiple swarms. So likewise in Moscow 1, you can see that even though the kills are fairly similar, that's mainly because there's an infinite hot in the middle section. So depending on how you're playing, if you're actively killing during this middle part, you can rack up a lot more kills, like I did in my solo no bots run. Yeah. but there is a time hot that is scaled according to the number of players in the final swarm. So that's something to take note of. Likewise, in Moscow 4, in the middle, there's a tunnel. And there's only a swarm there if you go loud at the start. So I'm pretty sure in my dead bots run I didn't go loud, that's why I don't have that middle swarm, and that's why my kill count is a lot lower than the one with solo no bots. So these are the things, you know, kind of to take into account, to bear it in mind. Even though the numbers here are the same, it can be a little bit misleading because there are some HOTS in between that's scaled accordingly. And then for those in red, essentially that you can see that there's a big difference, at least 1.4 or 1.5 times of scaling in the hot size. And they usually or tend to have HOTS that are timed. So basically they're going to attack a gate and then you will get a much larger swarm. So then the next question is, do you actually play with or without bots? What's going to be easier? So to answer that, you know, the advantages of having bots is they can be used at mid shields. Essentially, they can use to, you know, you can use them to tank a bull dodge if you have no other areas to run to. You know, when they are trying to revive another bot, when the bot is trying to revive another person or bot, they get pretty tanky, so they can take a lot more hits as well during that period of time. They can cover flanks, you know, they have aimbot, so they can snipe a lurker or a bomber or a gas bag that's just spawned from, you know, behind you. So it basically helping to cover you. They can also hold medkits and heavies. So for classes like Exterminator and Hellraiser, which relies on heavies, you know, this can be pretty useful. So they can hold the MGLs that spawns around the map or from the specials that you have killed as a Hellraiser, and you can use them for you know, to clear pyramids and time gates. They can also use equipment. So for example, Gunslinger bot can throw grenades which instant kill bulls and infectors. Medic can steam you, which heals you by 10%. Fixer can use their masking grenades and also explosive ammo, which can be useful. So there are some advantages of having bots around. And of course, having bots, there's also the disadvantage. So they do go loud in certain areas. So for example, one thing that I have experienced is in Tokyo 2 in the middle, where you are planting the charges. It is quite easy to go silent in the area if you are alone or with dead bots, but when they are alive, they tend to go loud for no particular reason. And then, you know, you get, you know, intermittent swarms, and which can be a little messy. And you do get larger HOTS in a handful of maps, as I've shown previously in the previous table. You also get more specials in the sense that you can get up to 2 gas bags and 2 bull spawns at one time. So if you play without bots, you usually get 1 gas bag and 1 bull or 1 juggernaut. Yeah, so that's the difference. And the bots have pretty bad positioning during swarms in certain maps. So for example, Tokyo 2 again, in the final swarm, sometimes they just kind of stand within the swarm path and go down instantly if you cannot clear the hot fast enough. So in certain maps, you are up to your own to kind of fend off the hot. So yeah, and then the last thing is there's no self unpin mechanic. So when you play solo without bots, you can actually unpin yourself when you are pinned by a lurker or a bull, and provided you have enough health to survive the damage from the pin mechanic. So I'm gonna demonstrate or show you guys the unpin mechanic that I was talking about. Here we have a Nemesis, which is a golden bull that should spawn fairly soon. We are playing without bots, as you can see, and we are on extreme difficulty with grass, so we have 25% more health. So the bull is coming over. Okay. So we'll let it charge us. Okay. And you're left with about 10 to 15% of your health after you survive the pin. So what this means is you actually need the Wheatgrass perk to survive the pin damage. There's no cooldown between the unpin, so you can unpin yourself unlimited number of times. The main criteria is you having the health to survive it. So if you're on PC and you're playing without Wheatgrass, you'll need some temp health to absorb this damage to survive the pin. So this is basically the self-unpin mechanic. But yeah, if you are surrounded, you might get slapped while you're unpinning yourself, and you'll probably still go down afterwards. For console players, because you guys have more health, you can actually survive the unpin damage or the pin damage and unpin yourself even without Wheatgrass. So that's the benefit of playing solo without bots. So then back to the question, is it easier to play solo with or without bots? Personally, I think in maps where the HOTS are not scaled as much, so highlighted by green and yellow, it is generally easier to play with bots because you have a controlled HOT that and so with bots they can actually help you with the advantages that I have listed. And in maps where the HOTS are scaled, and because usually they have pretty bad positioning and go down fairly quickly, so sometimes you're actually left to deal with the 4-man HOT alone, which places you at a disadvantage. So in these maps, sometimes it is actually better to play without bots. So you get a smaller HOT, and you still get that self-unpin mechanic in the event where you get lurked by a silent lurker or by a bull, due to yeah. So hopefully this helps and gives you an idea of the spawn mechanics of the game, and help you to decide whether or not soloing with or without bots is easier. And yeah, hopefully it helps you guys to solo some extreme maps as well. And yeah, thank you for watching. Hey guys, so if you have been watching my videos, you know that I quite like to do solo runs, and there have been quite a few questions asking me about why I'm killing the bots at the start, and the difference between playing with and without bots. So there is quite a big difference in most of the maps, which I'll go through in a little bit. But basically, if you want to play with bots, you can do it offline. That's where you'll get 0 ping. Essentially, there's no option to kind of turn them off. And if you want to play without bots, or with the bots dead, you have to go into a private lobby, choose the map you want, and then under game settings, you will have to decide whether or not you want to have the bots on or off. So that's pretty simple. And if you want to keep the bots dead, if you want to have if you want a challenge, and then you can turn on mutator, which is what I usually use, is 1-up. So basically, once you down the bots, they won't respawn, and you'll basically deal with the swarm and play the game alone. There's also the option of Iron Man, but essentially with 1-up, you can still use adrenaline, so that's the main difference. So this is the better option if you are kind of looking for a challenge. But yes, so that's basically the idea. And there's also another option to play private lobby with 0 ping, is to use this local peer-to-peer server. You can turn it on, but you must turn off the crossplay option in the game setting to use this. So let me show you quickly. So under settings, under game, crossplay turned off, and then this will allow you to play private lobby at 0 ping. Otherwise, if you don't have this option, you'll usually be at the usual ping that you'll be on. So for me, for example, you'll be say 30 over ping to 70 ping sometimes. So yeah, hopefully that helps.